Well, thanks everybody for showing up, and thanks for having a great meeting last time. I wish I could have dialed in, but I was on the Mekong River, so I wasn't diving either. So in any case, it's October. That's kind of surprising. We walked in the door. This conversation was, wow, I can't believe time goes by so quickly. So here we are again. A couple of quick announcements. Those of you on the board, I'm lagging a little bit. I need to send out a new poll. We had to cancel our planned board meeting a week ago because for lack of anybody being available to come. So
like one person,
yeah, I was good. I was good to go, but it's okay with me. Let's see. Has anybody been diving?
But gonna go diving soon.
The hell with you, you know. What about it, Russell? Where you been? Cozumel. Alex, I
camera has 7 probes, like maybe
it was a lot of fun, except that if you tried to take pictures, you were like roly-poly. I've never seen the currents for a whole week like that. The last day, last dive, they shut down. But it was great diving. I mean, Cozumel still looks great. Good restaurants, found a brand new restaurant there. So anyway, worth going.
Absolutely. I was surprised when I went back there, you know, the first time, hadn't been in 20 years, and it really improved since they made it a marine park.
Well, so I actually was there 2 weeks ago. I thought the last meeting you had already been there, and I was gonna go there.
So were you there at the same time?
I thought you were there before me because you were saying that the currents were.
Okay. Just, you know, come on, girls.
And they were definitely hauling ass.
Yeah, they were.
But I enjoyed it because scooting along just sideways, taking video of the sand. You can watch the sand dunes build. And those of us who like, you know, earth processes and stuff like that, that's like, that was cool. See the sand rolling over the tops, coming down the side, swirling around, forming the next sand dune. Excellent. So, but I had a memorable time. We got COVID. So, you know, that always ruins things when you come back with COVID. So,
I can empathize.
Yeah, you know something about that, Craig?
I do, yeah. I bet my dives cost more than yours, though.
So I had my very first dive at Mammoth. Woo! So exciting, Mammoth Lake. Yep. And we get out to the buses. Now, mind you, I have no idea, right? It's my first time, so whatever I see is cool. We get out, and the guys are just jumping up and down and all excited. And I can't figure out what they're so excited about. And they said, we knew there was a second bus underneath the first bus, the top bus, the school bus, but we didn't know it was a Metro bus. And they were so excited because it was the first time the visibility was good enough that you could see the bus underneath the school bus and tell that it was a bigger Metro type bus.
So how was the visibility?
It was 12 feet. You know, I mean, hey, that's pretty doggone good for him. I'm just saying. It was about 12 to 15 feet.
Beats Singapore Harbor, I can tell you that.
Like
And Henry says he went diving too, but he's a well-known liar, so let's
Wow. What an
Just don't point at me.
Sorry, I had a cup of coffee this afternoon.
I spent 2 weeks in Limbai.
Again, weren't you? I thought you were there before.
I was there last year.
Last year, yes, time flies.
But I mean, you don't get to see 2 hairy frogfish on that many often.
You don't see those in Mammoth Lake.
Yeah, no, you don't. No, you don't. We actually had one dive where we had 3 of them, like one here and about one where Dennis was sitting, and then we saw another one later on.
Yeah.
And it's
Where were you staying?
Nad.
Nad. Okay, you really like that resort.
Yeah, I mean, it's that 2-to-1 dive ratio that makes or breaks you. And the first week I had a dive guide all to myself. And then the second week, that's when I went with Blue Water, and they only do a 7-day, 1-week thing down there. So I went down a week early. And we had an English lady who would not talk to me.
You should have taken a shower, man.
No,
We got
no,
lottery winners in order to be.
no matter how nice I tried to be, she wouldn't say anything.
Okay, that's the story of my life. Let's move on.
Yeah. And had had 3 guys from Holland. I call them Dutch boys. And I don't know what else. I was the only American there that week. But
I worked for a Dutch company, and our saying around our plant was, if you ain't Dutch, you ain't much.
well, one of the guys down there, I was telling him I was going to Bonaire in October, and he says, "Oh, I work for a shipping company. I'm in Bonaire like 8 times a year." But he's not there at the same time that HUPS is down there.
Okay, well, that's, anybody, online that's been diving want to tell us what they're doing? Oh, okay.
Lots of indifference out there.
Supposed to be on the fling on Thursday, but I don't think it's.
Oh, that's too bad, yeah.
But yeah, my first time at the flower gardens. So, so I have a scheduled trip my first trip to the flower gardens on Thursday, and I looked at the forecast for the Gulf and it's not looking good, but that's okay, whatever.
I'm actually on that trip, so yeah, we might run into each other. Is that the 3-day trip on Thursday? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah,
aren't you
I'll be
here?
there. I'll
Let's
be
go.
on it.
Oh.
Yeah, we plan to I think if Andy's on, I think they plan to go look for some depth to do some black water diving. So that was my yeah, okay, sign me up.
Justin, I'm going to be here tomorrow, so I expect to go. Just let me know where you live, and I'll come over to your house, and we'll get together. We'll
Stunning.
change diapers
Stunning.
together. Cheers, man.
Done deal. Done.
Right
Cheers.
on. All right.
Thanks, Eric.
Well, I'm letting this go on because Frank's not with us tonight. He's got a busted water pipe, so he called up, and I'm not going to repeat his story. He'll tell you the next time when he's here. So we're any other reports? Russell, you said you had an announcement.
Yeah, I do. Betsy had asked me, I sent her something on Ocean Art 2023 underwater photo contest. They're accepting entry. I gotta put my glasses on. Would you please?
Yeah, hold that.
So I could read.
Ocean Art 2023 underwater photography competition.
Yeah,
Now accepting entries.
yeah. Now accepting entries through November of this year. There's $110,000 in prizes. Betsy said if I'd sent it in to her earlier, she would have put it in the newsletter. She put it in the next one right now. You need to register. They've got wide angle, macro, marine life behavior, portrait, cold water, black and white, black water, underwater, conservation, nudibranchs, compact wide angle, compact macro, compact behavior, underwater fashion, underwater digital art. And if you go to, I guess, Ocean Art 2023, you guys can read all about it if you're interested in entering some of the
When's the deadline?
November something. November 30th of this
Okay.
year. Okay. So if
And-
anybody's interested,
No entry fee?
I didn't see that. I don't think there is.
Okay,
Okay.
that's cool.
Anyway, a lot of good prizes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I was working on gadgets and I didn't get a chance to bring a gadget of the month. So does anybody bring one that they'd like to? Martin always has.
Martin always has a gadget.
So this is it's a new guy. I didn't even know they had these things, but this is, I need a microphone.
Yeah, here we go.
This is a little gizmo. It doesn't look like much, but for people that are afraid of their camera flooding, this will allow you to go all trip without opening your case if you want to. That it charges the camera in the case and unloads the photos through the side of the case.
So it's a USB thing that has you got to have a hole to plug it into. But the underwater case that I have has one of these, and you put this in the hole, and it's just, you can connect the USB straight in there, so you can charge the camera and unload photos. This I collect one, yeah. So
Your camera charges
if-
by USB.
if your camera charges by US, a lot of ifs, you got to have a hole to plug it in, you got to have a USB to plug it in. But a lot of are switching to USB, but pretty handy. You know, it's a neat little gadget. I'm going to try it on the next trip.
Takes all the fun out of it. I mean, there's no chance of, screwing
Well,
up.
I bet I could still flood my camera.
That's right. You still be taking off a port and changing lenses, Dennis, and yes, yeah, okay, still plenty of opportunities. All right, cool. That's neat. Let's see, what am I forgetting?
Can I say one thing?
Absolutely.
When I started photography, when my father gave me my first camera, which was a Nikonis 2 underwater camera, and I realized, and that was just to take photos on the surface for myself. And I realized after being a digital photographer for many years, and how we are so used to being able to see the images on the back of the camera and all this stuff. And then when I think about people like David Dubélé and all these National Geographic people that were back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s before digital cameras, and how they had 36 exposures, and that they were shooting chrome slide film. And I don't even compare, there's these people are gods to me, because the exposures had to be right on the money. They knew exactly what they had to do. And I'm grateful that technology has allowed us to do what we do. But the people that were before us, that's where I started. And I realized it pretty quickly when I had and I still have that Nikonis 2 camera. There's no way I could even compare to that. These people are so amazing. And it just makes me realize how lucky we are. So I just wanted to say that to y'all.
And if people that shot Kodachrome, there was only a couple places around the country that would process
Oh, yeah.
K14. So it wasn't like you could go.
When I shot Kodachrome in Brownsville, Texas, I would ship it off to Rochester, New York.
Only Kodak processed it.
Huh?
Only Kodak processed.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was not.
And that's where I started. And that to me was almost like Fox Photo, like the next day, but it was like the next week. And now we're at a point where if it's not immediate, it's just like, oh my gosh.
I'd say it's still the best
Kodachrome
film,
is
but
very interesting because it is the only one of the only film emulsions that was pretty much archival.
Well,
Everything else, any of the chrome, they fade with time. Jesse had his 1960. His father had that 16 millimeter camera, and it was done in Kodachrome, and the color was still there.
So good. All the
Oh,
all the E6 things are all red after
Yes.
a couple decades.
and my first photo that was ever published in Surfer Magazine of that kid's,
Yeah.
on the wave, that was on Kodachrome 64.
Yeah. Well, the big,
It's amazing to me to even think I was shooting 64 ASA. I would never do that now.
well, the
but the real men shot
standard for
25,
most of
okay?
us, underwater
25
photographers
is
is
the best.
Velvia 50 ISO, Velvia.
Yeah, and so
Mhm.
sorry, we're boring the young kids here. I mean,
I'm probably the youngest guy.
I love this conversation. This happens every week.
yeah, I still have a bunch of slides and they still look good.
Yeah, they'll always.
We got a bunch of people. Look at there.
Well, I think, have I forgotten anything or we should move on to the program?
Oh,
now?
why don't you ask how many people we have that have not been here before, like
Oh,
Jack?
yeah, that's right. Who's
There.
new? Oh, gosh, yeah. We'll just start here in the back corner.
Stand up and tell us who you're on.
Go ahead. We know you're a photographer now. so-
Right. Well, my name is Marjorie. I live in Austin and I am a photographer, although right now I do work for the state. So No, not the prison system, but I actually do work for the chair of the Criminal Justice Committee in the Senate.
Her boss.
So my boss is Senator John Whitmire, who's running for mayor.
Oh, yeah.
Can I do a quick plug? Whoever is going to vote for mayor, my boss is awesome, but y'all make your own decision. But I am a photographer. I worked in a lab in the early 90s, and then I moved on to doing event photography and photojournalism in Austin for the Texas Tribune, Texas Monthly. And now just I've move on to the state. I still do some event photography, and I am in way down here compared to this guy who is like way up here and super awesome. So.
And Eric Schlegel, I did the last presentation to your club last meeting, and I'm very humbled and honored to have done that. My background is different from anybody else's, but I think you guys recognize that. And it was wonderful to talk to you guys, and I really wanted to be here in person. So I'm glad to be here today for many reasons, but I'm always learning. I don't know that much about what I do. I'm very humble about that.
Always gets the most amazing images.
Whatever. Anyways, I'm grateful for many things, especially being able to pursue my passion even at 60 years old. So I'm exactly. Yeah, I am a youngster, but I have my father to thank for that, and that he's the one that urged me to pursue my passion. And he was an artist that went into international business, and I studied international business, and then I became a photographer. So it's great to be here, and I'm here to learn from you guys. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
And Jesse and Christine are here.
They've been here before.
Been here before.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure we have new people over here or not. I haven't been here for a while, so.
Yeah, I haven't been here.
Well, okay. I can't remember that wrong anyway, so tell us. There you go.
What is it?
That's a microphone.
Oh. Oh, well, no, it's just been a number of years that I've been a member, but I'm a past member. And Carol Mouton. And there's some people here who know me from way back when, but I started diving with slide film, way back in the 90s. That was quite different. Quite challenging to take good slides underwater. So there you go.
Back on.
No, wait, did Alex bring his sister?
No.
Be a little awkward with the presentation. This is Dawson, my wife. See what you guys cause, what kind of trouble you guys cause, and see who else was on the boat with me, and make sure, see who has COVID, who gave me COVID, all that sort of things,
Did you come back with COVID? I know that you had an opportunity since
No, I was
Andy.
sick. Remember, I did dive one day because I couldn't
Oh,
do it for
yeah.
years.
Yeah. So you probably did get it.
Oh.
Andy
And
got it.
I give it to Andy.
Yeah, that's right. It's the disease that keeps on giving.
Okay, what about online there? Who's new?
Jack.
Jack? Jack.
Hi, yeah, I received a invitation to this from Andy Hall from Galveston, and I have an interest in the Hatteras as having dove on it as an archaeologist with the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, formerly the Minerals Management Service, along with my colleague Rick Neskowitz, who's worked with Jesse. I've spoken to him on the phone a number of times. I don't think we've ever actually met in person. So I was interested in this presentation to find out the latest work that's been done on this wreck. This is one that was of great interest to us at the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management because of its history. And we had actually was one of the first wrecks that we had actually identified as a agency. Since then, I think we've had a total of some 33 historical shipwrecks that we've identified throughout the Gulf of Mexico, down to 7,000 feet of water, which is a little deep for probably your guys, but I just recently retired, so now living in Florida, but still trying to keep my hand into the underwater archaeology game. So interested to see what Jesse has to say about this wreck.
Yeah, thanks very much for coming. Oh,
Thank you.
yeah, you'll be ready.
Hey, Jack, I just wanted to thank you for tuning in on this. And yeah, I spoke with Andy Hall earlier this afternoon about this and told him to spread things along for me. But anyway, we can communicate more after the show.
Great.
Okay, I think I'm done here and showtime, right? Dennis, you're up.
Is it my turn? Okay, well, I would introduce you to Jesse, but I think everybody in the whole damn world knows him. So.
I'm so glad.
Except for Eric over back there. I guess Eric came just specifically, well, to see the show and to see Jesse and talk to him. I think that's pretty cool. Just to let you know that a bunch of us are headed off to Indonesia. I know this guy down here going with me. Hopefully we'll be able to find something to do in Bali.
I'm headed off in a week and a half
Where?
to truck first.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
No, not quite. Not quite.
Trucking along. Okay. All right. Well, so anyway, Jesse and I have had, well, I guess probably a dozen different dive trips together at least. I would think so. And I consider him one of my real solid friends. He tries to keep me involved with things, which I thank you very much for that. And we're both trying to keep the old man out. His presentation tonight is sort of an emergency request. I had a cancellation of somebody I was counting on, had to move things around, and he said he had 3 different presentations, and he gave me an option. I said, well, let's do the Hatteras. I think that one would be so much different than anybody else's. And so I'm really happy that you agreed to do this for us, Jesse. I'm going to hand this to you and let you do it.
Okay.
Just kind of pin that to yourself or hold it.
Uh-huh. Okay, I'll just hold it. And so here, I'm going to stand up here so I can see everybody. And again, hey, everybody thanks for tuning in, and everybody here. Hey, thanks for being here. It's been quite a while since I have stood up here and seen all these wonderful faces and had a chance to talk about something that I'm very, very passionate about. Everybody here who knows me know how passionate I am about the ocean, but you may not know also that I'm passionate about shipwrecks, especially historical shipwrecks. And really, I began scuba diving. I cut my teeth scuba diving in 2 places that have a lot of shipwrecks. Bermuda is where I made my first coral reef dive. It's also where I made my first shipwreck dive. And the coast of New Jersey. Shipwrecks there. B4, yes, shipwrecks in New Jersey. Mostly, I'd say, the large majority World War II wrecks from the Germans patrolling our East Coast during World War II. So, and actually, I've made a Jersey wreck, just on a side, I've made a Jersey wreck dive as recently as 2 years ago, and I plan to make one next year. But let's talk about the USS Hatteras, because it's a fascinating story in the history, this history of the Civil War history, and especially this local history. And that's really what I want to talk about tonight. But before we get into start turning the slides, let me just mention a few things before we start right into the images that you're going to see tonight. Because the story really began in 2003, 20 years ago. I was in my early 50s, and I was still like just full of wanting to explore, and I mean, I still like to explore, but I've slowed down a little bit. When I was in my 50s, I was going really hard with a group of friends of mine. We were all technical divers, and we were doing technical diving, and we were exploring different places outside of the Flower Garden Bank, Skyer Bank, and these other banks that are off and away from the Flower Garden banks. And so I came up with this idea to dive, to try to locate this really historic shipwreck, the USS Hatteras, that I had read about. And I read about it, and I read about this guy, Paul Cloutier, who was a Rice University guy who he was a student and then a professor there. And he found this shipwreck. He's the guy that found it. Now, I'll show you, not a picture of him. No, no, we're in the Gulf of Mexico now. We're in the Gulf of Mexico. And, you know, I've been in Houston now for 43 years. So we're scuba diving in the Gulf of Mexico, flower gardens, and the outer reefs that people don't necessarily know that much about. And we were looking for new places. We dived the brine seep, for example. That's a whole other presentation. But so I heard about this really historical shipwreck, the Hatteras, and I had read about it, and I thought, wow, how about if we go out and find it and dive it? Because it's this old side wheeler, and it was a huge part of the Civil War era in Galveston, in the Gulf of Mexico, off of Galveston. And so to make a long story short, because this is just the introduction, I was able to talk this guy into giving me the GPS coordinates. And because nobody would, super secretive. So in 2003, me and 3 friends of mine were able to find this shipwreck and dive it. Okay, so that's, you know, 20 years ago. So now just set that number in your mind for a minute. So we had a fantastic day, good visibility. I got some photos. I'll show you some photos. And then 10 years go by. Well, actually, what happened is in 2008 is when Tropical Storm Ike hit. And then in 2009 or 10, and Jack's on here, he probably knows about this since he mentioned what he did, is there was some survey work done by the government that go out and they look at the shipwrecks and the condition of the shipwrecks. And they did a survey on the Spree. Remember when the Spree used to be out there with the flag? And the captain of the Spree told me, he goes, when I came by, it really pushed a lot of the mud and silt off of the Hatteras. And I think a lot more of it's exposed. So now I'm going to 2011. I'm in a conference in Galveston with Dr. James Delgado. He was there to give a presentation, and he at the time was the head of the Marine Archaeology Department of NOAA, the central government of our government. And he was the kingpin for marine archaeology in NOAA. And I went up to him in this meeting. After the meeting was over, I went up to him and introduced myself. And I said, Dr. Delgado, do you know about the USS Hatteras? And he lit up and he goes, oh, I know about the USS Hatteras. Of course I do. And I said, did you know that Ike, when it went by 3 years ago, it uncovered a lot of it? And he goes, no, I didn't know that. And I said, you know, it would be fascinating to go out there and see the condition of the shipwreck. And his eyes lit up again. And he said, Jesse, he goes, look, he goes, let me do some work on this and I'll get back to you. And when he got back to me, he said, I said, are we going to have a project? And he goes, no, it's going to be a mission and you're going to be part of it. So anyway, so now go ahead. This is this was a painting done to show what happened. And this is the Hatteras getting hit. And then the ship that is firing on it is the USS Alabama. So next slide. So anyway, now I'm going to show you some, again, we're going to talk about the history. Okay, so 2 years into the Civil War, 11 days after the Battle of Galveston. Okay, so this is the situation that we have right now. We're going back into time. Sam Houston, as I'm sure anybody that knows Texas history, they know Sam Houston was against Texas going into the Confederacy, and so he was retired. So Sam Houston was in Huntsville, Texas. He was retired. Next. So it was the only U.S. warship sunk in combat in the Gulf of Mexico during the Civil War. So that's pretty amazing right there. This iron-hulled side wheeler. It actually, the ship was built in Philadelphia, and that's where it was built. And it was moved, and it came part of the naval fleet of the U.S. government, and it was sent to Galveston to do the blockades and prevent the Confederates from, putting the squeeze on them as far as commerce goes. So it was this Rear Admiral David Farragut who was the commander of the ship. The battle took place January 11th. 1863, 20 nautical miles south of Galveston. If you draw a line from Galveston to Freeport, say the inlet in Galveston, the inlet of Freeport, and you go halfway, go to the halfway point of that line, you go out 20 miles, that's where the ship is. That's where the ship is. I have the GPS coordinates. They're not, I'd say, are they secret? Well, not that many people know about where to find it, but if anybody wanted to go out there and dive this wreck in their boat, I'll tell you how to do it. So next. So again, this was an integral part of the Civil War story of the Gulf of Mexico. The battle lasted 13 minutes. This was a slaughter, really. The CSS Alabama was way, way overpowered compared to the Hatteras. And the Hatteras, actually, the captain of the Hatteras was not very experienced. The Confederate captain of the Alabama was a very, very seasoned guy, and he had big guns on his. And he actually, the story is, it's not up here on the slide, but he sucker punched the Hatteras. He went in with no flag up, and tried to move the Hatteras in close without identifying who it was. The Hatteras was a blockade, trying to create the blockade along the coastline. Saw this ship, and the ship didn't have any identification, moved in closer. He just suckered them right in and then put up the Confederate flag and blew them away. So that's basically what happened. Next. So as far as the results of the battle, 2 men killed on the Hatteras. Well, actually, their bodies, they weren't shot dead. They were down. They were down in the hull. One guy was shoveling coal into the furnace, and the other guy was a fireman. And they just did their duty. They were down there. We got to keep the furnace going and the boiler going. And they never got out of it. Survivors were taken to prison in Jamaica, and CSS Alabama, minor damage and a few people hurt. Next. So here's a rendition of the battle right here. And again, at 13 minutes long, January 11th, 1863. Next. So I'm going to talk now about, it wasn't a project, it was a mission. And but I mentioned Paul Cloutier, who discovered the wreck in the 1970s. At the time, he was a graduate student at Rice, and he was developing a magnetometer that as part of his graduate work, and he was testing it out in the Texas coast. And actually, he first started going down by South Padre Island, where there's some Spanish galleons, and boy, he got kicked out of there. They said, no, you can't do that. And so he brought his magnetometer up the coast, and he was off of Freeport, between Freeport and Galveston, and he found it. So when he found it, and he went down and got some things off of it, he tried to get Admiralty ownership. And he took the US Navy to court, but he did not win. And
Was it like the Atocha where you know, salvage rights and all that?
well, the Atocha, that's different. This was a naval ship.
Oh, so it's military.
This was a naval ship. The Navy said, hey, you can't take our ship. It belongs to us. It's naval. So the Navy actually still owns the ship, but they transferred the really transferred the rights for the ship to the state of Texas. So today, currently, the state of Texas has the rights to that ship. The rights do not prevent anybody who wants to go out and locate it and scuba dive on it and just look at it. It's no problem. You can do that. You cannot take anything off of it. If you try to take something off of it, you've broken the law. So that's just what you. So if you really wanted to see it, no problem. Okay, next. This is This is Homer Blake, a picture of the captain of the Hatteras. Next. So when, as I described earlier, Dr. James Delgado, which by the way, just I don't know if anybody here has ever heard of this guy, but he's a TV host. He's on TV every once in a while on the Discovery Channel. He now works for a private company that's a marine archaeologist. He hasn't retired yet. He's still active. He has been involved in Titanic. He's been involved in a number of very prominent marine archaeological projects from the Arizona and Hawaii. What is it? Some of the other ones. Well, the most recent one is the last slave ship to ever come over from Africa to the U.S. And actually, it was done illegally. It's called the
Clotilla.
Clotilla. The Clotilla, which is in Alabama, in Mobile, Alabama, in the river there. That story was on Discovery Channel a year or so ago. And he was the lead guy for that one too. But so James Delgado, he had all sorts of stroke, and you'll see the people he got involved in this. And I just stood back and he says, look, Jesse, you're going to be part of this. When I met him in this down in Galveston after a meeting and introduced myself, and as I already mentioned, I told him about the situation that I knew about that was out there, and it's really, the storm, Ike had uncovered so much of it, and it was a prime time to go down and see the condition of the wreck. So he said, hey, look, you're just take care of the photography on this, take care of the diving operations on this, and I'll take care of the rest. And I said, hey, that's fine. So he set these key objectives, and they were the purpose that he had for doing what we did was, number one, is to get a better definition of the wreck as it laid then 2012 in the Gulf of Mexico, and using some 3D technology, some sonar mapping technology. And number two, better understand the significance of the Hatteras to Texas maritime heritage. Get more people to care about it, because you can't, you've got to do something like this, you have to really have this force of showing people what's there and what happened, and to really get them to care more about our maritime history, our regional maritime history. And BOEM, as we have in attendance today, they've been doing work continuously with not just the USS Hatteras, but other ships along the Texas coast. And this would be in addition to the work that they've done from a marine archaeology and nautical marine heritage in our area. And then also use the results for education and outreach. Okay, next. Again, 20 miles south of Bolivar Light, not a deep dive, 57 feet. And it is near a shipping fairway. The wreck is primarily buried. It's 85 to 90% of the wreck is buried under the mud, the entire hull. The gunnel is sticking up maybe 3, 4, 5 inches in some spots, and the rest of it is buried. But what is out is part of the actual side wheels. The shafting between the side wheels is exposed. Part of the boiler exposed. Part of the furnace is exposed. But the maximum relief off the bottom is, 4 to 7 feet. And as I mentioned before, the 2008 Hurricane Ike exposed quite a bit of it. Visibility can be from just a few inches to 40 feet or more. Next. Here's a site map that you can see here that what is exposed, the south paddle wheel, the north paddle wheel, or the port and the starboard paddle wheels, the shaft. It had a walking beam steam engine, part of that exposed. There's a part of the steam engine, which is a cylindrical linear type of steam engine, is exposed, and some pistons and other parts. And then the stern rudder post is exposed. Next. This is what a walking beam steam engine looks like for any mechanical guys here that like to know what that's all about. But this is the, you see the beam on the top goes up and down. This is this is where the steam is produced in the cylinder, and that motion is linear. And then what happens is the linear motion is converted to rotary motion for the paddle wheels, just like you see on a locomotive, where the locomotive, you've got a linear motion like this, and then you've got, it's converted to a circular motion. Next. So here's the 2003 trip that I did with Bill Graham, Chuck Noe, and David French. And we went out on Bill Graham's boat. Again, I got the coordinates from Cloutier after, actually it took me 3 phone calls. And he was like, first 2 phone calls, he was like, no, I'm not giving you those coordinates. And I just kept trying and trying. And finally he said, all right, I'll give you the coordinates. So we went down, and if you look, you see blue water. The visibility was over 40 feet that day in 2003. And we went down, and I was able to take this picture and a few more.
What month?
And by the way, this was taken on Kodachrome film, it was in the summer. I think it was around June or July. Okay, next. Here's another shot. That's Bill Graham, and that's one of the paddle wheels. And you can see, yeah, this backscatter. We were talking earlier about backscatter. This is a situation. I didn't try to take this into Photoshop and remove the backscatter. That's how it looked. This was shot on film. Next. And that's Chuck Noe on one of the other paddle wheels in 2003. Okay, so we're going back 20 years. Next. So again, going back to the mission that we had in 2012, what we were actually going to do is conduct a site assessment of the wreck, use a mapping technology that came from Washington State. This company, Teledyne, Blueview, they had this 3D sonar technology. And so it didn't matter what the visibility was. You didn't have to, you could have zero technology, zero visibility. And you could map it because it was sonar, it was sound waves. And this was really cool. So we were going to also photographically document the wreck. That's where I came in. I was the photographer, and I was able to get a few photos. The visibility was not that good on this trip, though, by the way. And then we wanted to investigate a few other targets that they had in mind to see what we could find. Next. And so here are the partners. So here's where James Delgado, this is what he put together. I had nothing to do with it because didn't have any of these. He was able to get funding money for this. because we ended up having 3 boats out there. We had the Sanctuaries boat out there and their entire dive team to support the mapping technology. Their divers supported the mapping technology. And so they were on the Manta. I could not be on the Manta because I'm not a NOAA diver. In order to dive off of the Manta, you have to be a NOAA diver. So James Delgado said, oh, well, Jesse, just charter a boat and send me the bill. And I said, oh, okay. So I chartered a boat called the Island Girl. And then there were some other folks, you know, this is the Office of the National Marine Tank Flower Garden Bank. They were on the Manta. We had Explore Ocean Foundation of Seattle, formerly Ocean Gate, Teledyne, Blue View, and Northwest Hydro, Matthews Foundation of New York doing some funding, and Bohm, Bessie, former MMS, they were part of it. This is Tesla Offshore. They're a private company that does archaeological work, and also they do, they've got all sorts of different areas of marine work that they do. Northwest Hydro, Texas Historical Commission, the U.S. Navy history. We had a person in part of the team out here in 2012 that was from the U.S. Navy. The U.S. Navy actually sent a person, an officer, to be part of this. And then volunteers. That's me at the bottom that's blanked out, is the volunteers, Jesse Cancelmo and Chuck No. Chuck No, anybody here who knows Chuck No, a good friend of mine. Okay. Chuck was instrumental. I should have gotten Chuck tonight. I'm sorry I didn't, but he was so instrumental on this trip because it was him that went down and found it. Because we had the GPS coordinates. We had been on it with Chuck in 2003. So I figured, well, we did it in 2003. We should be able to do it in 2012. But I told James Delgado, I said, I've got to bring Chuck No because he'll find it. I had no confidence in my skills for finding the wreck, but I had total confidence in his. So Chuck was on the trip and he was on the boat with me, the Island Girl. And then we had 3 boats because the folks from the Tesla Offshore, they couldn't dive off of the Sanctuary boat either because they weren't, so they had a boat. So we had 3 boats. Next.
That's the same Tesla as the
No. That has nothing to do with Tesla car. So now here you can see, well, the 3rd boat is behind here. You can't see it, but I was on this boat right here with Chuck, and then we had the Sanctuary boat, and then there was a 3rd boat. And when we were out there the very first morning, see, it was the Manta, the Carolyn J, and the Island Girl. One of the Sanctuary folks took this shot, but we had these 3 boats, and 2 of the boats came from Galveston. I'm sorry. Yes, 2 of the boats came from Galveston, and then 1 came from Freeport. And then so the 3 boats converged out to the GPS location on the first morning. And we sat there we all arrived about the same time frame, about 9:30. And then the next step was put a marker down, a marker buoy down at the exact wreck site. And so that's where Chuck No came in, because the visibility was about 10 to 12 feet. That was it. So, and down 57 feet. So when you go in the water and you go down and you can't see, okay, how do you find it? Well, if you know how to find things in low to 0 visibility, you've had to have done it before and know how to do it. And I knew Chuck could do it. So Chuck went in the water. He said, oh yeah, I'll find it. No problem. Just drop me off right here. So he went in the water, and I looked at my watch. I said, okay. And I'm then 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm looking around. I see 3 boats. I see all these people. I mean, I don't know what the count was, but we probably had, 40 or more people in 3 boats. It was probably closer to 50 people in 3 boats. And I'm thinking, Jesse, Jesse, what if he can't find this? People had flown in from Washington. People had flown in from California. People had flown in from DC. We had a Navy person on the boat. We had all these people, all this technology, and I thought, well, what if Chuck doesn't find it? So, and I'm looking, and then I'm
the only one.
so then he pops up. He goes, "Oh, I got it." I was like, "Oh my God!" But he really it didn't happen in 5 or 10 minutes. It took a while. So anyway, next. So this is the this one of the sonar devices. They had all these devices that they put down to transmit the sonar to make a map. The goal was to produce a high definition, accurate map of what was down on the bottom, exposed, that you could see. That was the goal. But it was a relatively small amount of the shipwreck itself. Okay, next. And this is I'm not going to read all this, but this is the technology that was used. It's called BlueView 5000 high def sonar. And actually, this was the second time this technology was deployed. The first time it was deployed was up in the Great Lakes, or up in actually Canada's Lake Labarge. And it mapped a shipwreck in this Canadian lake, the A.J. Goddard. And so the folks that had this technology, there you go, oh yeah, we want to deploy it in the Gulf of Mexico in the ocean and try it out there. So it was these multiple sonar scanners, and then all the data went up to the ship, the Manta, and with people with computers and programs, and to take all this data and then produce a map. Next. So this is the map that was produced. This is the BlueView image, and you can see the side wheel, the shafting. This is almost like a big gearbox here. The other paddle wheel and the steam engine and parts of the furnace. Next. And here is another angle, and you can see one of the side wheel paddles and part of the shaft, and then that's the where this basically the steam engine was. Next. And here's another angle, same thing. This is the side wheeler, and then you can see this is the stern section that you'll see a photograph of it in a minute. I went over there and took a shot of Chuck Noe at the stern. Next. So this is what the conditions were. It was, a pretty decent day. It wasn't totally flat calm or anything. We had a little bit of white caps, but the divers were deployed from the empty Manta, and GP Schmal was on board, Emma Hickerson was on board. These are names that some of you may know. GP just recently retired. Emma is now in Australia, but she had the dive team that was used to support the sonar mapping. And all I had to do is go in with my camera and try to get some photographs. That's all I had to do. Okay, next. And this is one of the divers that was down from the one of the BlueView guys. Next. Okay, so here, finally, I should have put this at the very beginning. The guy in the middle, that is Dr. Jim Delgado, and he's the guy that really was the leader of this mission. He put the whole thing together, and he got these guys from Explore Ocean and all of the technology guys to do the sonar. He put it all together. Next. Couple of quotes from Delgado that I put up here. This, and again, this guy is a marine archaeologist, and his whole life is focused on marine archaeology. This technology allows us to virtually raise the Hatteras while leaving her entombed as a war grave. And really keep that in your mind about the fact that this is the Civil War, but it's a war grave that we have out there. That's what it is. You know, sometimes the stories we learn from them were never in the books. So that's how marine archaeology really is. I mean, it's like enhancing history. The more you learn. Exactly, exactly. With the Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona.
You have millions of sonar generated points in a cloud that have to be processed. Those images will aid historians and archaeologists and offer a taste of history to the general public. James Delgado, next. Here are the people the team that was aboard the Manta with their laptops and with you know, all the devices they needed to transfer the data that was derived by all these sonar scans and turn them into maps. And they had the programs to do that. They were busy on the Manta doing that. Next. Okay, a few photos that I took. Again, the visibility I'd say was about 12 feet at best. And this is what one of the starboard paddle wheel. Next.
Super wide.
Oh yeah, I was using, actually on this trip was I used a 20 millimeter on a, or no, I'm sorry, a 12 millimeter on a no, it wasn't a full frame, it was a no. But anyway, yes, super wide angle. And this photo was not only on the front of the Houston Chronicle, front page of the Houston Chronicle, it was also used by National Geographic online. It wasn't in the yellow magazine, but it was on their online, what they have online. Next. You see the you know, fish swimming around, the spade fish swimming around the wreck. Next. And here again, some images that show you what it looks like down there. And so if you have in your mind, oh, I want to make a dive to see a coral reef and tropical fish, this isn't the right place. If you have in your mind, hey, I want to see this really significant, historically significant shipwreck and see what it looks like, the condition of it, and the shape it's in today of this ship that came from this battle that took place in 1863. This is what you see. And this is a combination of equipment, well, of pieces and parts, thrust bearing and bolts. Next. The fishermen that drag nets in the Gulf of Mexico, if they go over one of these, they're supposed to be looking at their GPS or their map plotter and see and not run over a historical shipwreck with their netting, but it does happen. And this is some of the netting from the fishermen. Next. And here's Amanda, who is part of the Tesla archaeological team, looking at this, just looking at the paddle wheel and fishes swimming by. Next. This is a shot I took of the shaft and eccentric. This transfers the linear motion to the rotary motion. Next. And part of the walking beam and piston rod that is also covered by nets. And again, all of these pieces are that you can see that are exposed and much more exposed after Ike than they were before. And I'm going to show you a comparison shot in a minute of that. And it's pretty stunning, really, when you think about the difference between 2003 and 2012 and what a hurricane can do. It's pretty stunning. But what I did was, as best as I possibly could, is just document with photographs the condition of the wreck. So next. Here's the stern post and the ribs and the plating. You know, that's at the very, very back end of the boat. And that's what it looks like. It's the back, the stern was sticking up, and then the rest of the hull went down and is now buried in the mud and silt and sand. Next. Here, to be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure what that is. It's pretty bizarre looking, but it's got the net draped over it. Next. And this is a piece of the bow that did break off. And this is Chuck No, again, the guy who is an expert at finding things. He's shown here in this photo with all the netting that's covered the wreck. Next.
Part of the main wreck, somewhere else.
This is, well, it's part of the wreck. It was broken off and moved forward. So it's not, you know, you don't see it connected to the rest of the wreck down there. Yeah.
The trippers, the netting probably dragged it away.
It could have. It very well could have. Next. And then another shot just showing with the, you know, the filefish and other fish down there swimming around the wreck, and you can see the sand and chains. And next. And yeah, again, this is not your typical coral reef dive. This is a shipwreck, and a very historical shipwreck that has just an incredible story behind it. Next. Okay, yeah, I mean, it is. And I mean, now the part somebody was asking earlier about the, well, how much preservation or how much is left of the shipwreck? The majority of this wreck is encased in the sand and mud. So it's totally preserved. It's completely preserved. It's down there and preserved. And it'll probably stay there for many, many years to come where it is now. This, we believe, was part of a gun emplacement at the bow of the boat. And that's Chuck No that you see there to give scale to the photo. Next. And here another shot. Next. So what were the results of this mission? The survey was complete. It was very, very, very successful from a technology standpoint using this Blue View high resolution sonar technology. It was very successful. Those guys did such a bang up job. So new features were documented. New things were identified that the marine archaeologists did not know before this mission took place. So a lot of new information for those guys. We got underwater photos of the wreck site, and then the topside photos documenting the mission activity. Next. So this is what I wanted to show you. I took both of these photos. The one on the left was 2003. And those are the two, and I backed off, and I had enough visibility to back off and show actually both of the paddle wheels, and only about 2 to 3 feet sticking up from the bottom. That's all we saw in 2003. And then now, after Ike went through and just came right through that area and moved so much of the sand and silt, that's what we saw in 2012 on the right-hand side, where it was exposed, where the shaft between the two was completely exposed from Hurricane Ike. Next. So what other results and benefits were there of this mission? Two high school students were given a chance to come out and take part in this mission. It was very cool to have, you know, these young kids out, these young students out there being part of what we were doing. And there were 3 adult students from Texas A&M University Galveston campus doing the same thing. It was all hands-on. Everybody did something. They took part of this mission, and it lasted 2 days. Craig Howard of Ocean Gate says participation provides inspiration through exploration. I think that's a really good quote. And of course, this was a very, very collaborative mission where we had to have coordination between the federal government and the state government and the private sector, education institutions and volunteers. So we had a lot of people involved, and it all came together. Next. Here's a shot of, let me see, that's, oh, this is Ed Cotham Jr. And I wish Ed could be here today because both Ed and Andy Hall, who I talked to on the telephone today, I sent Ed an email. I don't know if he got it or not, but they were part of it. They're local, and they are both historical experts on this area, not just this area, but this region of history. And that's what they do. That's what their lives are filled with. We also had, and this is very interesting, we had a commemoration that took place on board the MV Manta to commemorate the two lost seamen, Fireman John Leary and coal heaver William Healy, who they remained at their posts during this battle. Can you imagine that? You know, you're down in the bottom of this ship where the furnace is, and there's a pile of coal, and you're under battle, and your orders are to keep the steam engine running. So these guys were down there shoveling coal, and the fireman doing what he does, and when the ship went down, they went down with it. So what was done to commemorate them next, there was a Catholic priest that was brought on board this mission, and there was a service that took place honoring the two Navy seamen. And that was all part of this mission. And we also had Houston Chronicle person on board. I mean, we had so many people on. I mean, we had students, we had, a priest, we had, reporters from the newspaper, and it was really, it all came together. It was really a fascinating event. Next. So again, the type of outreach and media we got, because again, I'm talking about something that happened 11 years ago, and I'm coming in here with this presentation tonight that really I first gave this 10 years ago, but it's such a fascinating story that when I told Dennis, I didn't think I had actually ever given this presentation to this audience. So I thought, hey, I could do this one because it's definitely worth talking about. So we were on the front page of the Houston Chronicle. There was the Galveston Daily News picked it up. NBC News picked it up. Fox News picked it up. Huffington Post. All these, they all picked it up. National Geographic Online used my photo. There was an interview by KTRH Radio. I personally took it upon myself to write an article for Alert Diver magazine, and it was in there. If you go back, they probably still have it online. If you go back to the spring 2013, you'll see the article I wrote about this in Alert Diver magazine. Next. Okay, next steps. Now here's the part that really is, I don't want to say disappointing, but I wish I could say a whole lot right now, but I don't have a whole lot to say. All I can tell you, well, I will say this, the painting that you saw, the noted naval artist, Tom L. Freeman, to paint a depiction of the battle. That was the opening slide, that painting. And that is very, very cool. I'm not sure exactly where that painting is today, but we talked about, the first bullet item, it's showing done too. There was a event in Galveston that marking the 150th anniversary, that was done. I can't tell you that any of these other things have been done. And when I talked to Andy Hall today about, well, Andy, you know, the last time I was out on this wreck was on my boat in 2014. So I was out there 7 years ago. I've been out there a total of 5 times. I was out there in 2003 with the very first photos I showed you with Bill Graham and Chuck No. I was out there in 2012 for this mission. And then I went out in the Good Vibrations, my boat, 3 different times and with various people. Dennis, you never made one of the trips, unfortunately, but with Chuck No. No, Chuck No was on every trip. I said, Chuck, I wanted to, you know, I'd say, Chuck, you're on this trip. He'd go in the water and find it. Me? I don't think so. But I was out there 3 times on my boat, and the last one was 2014. So yes, that's 9 years ago. But going back again to Andy Hall, when I talked to him on the phone today, I said, Andy, hey, I'm giving this presentation and I want to make sure that there isn't something that's been done that I don't know about. And he said, Jesse, no, nothing really has been done. And in talking to him about it, the reason why is this is not a shipwreck that's where the complete wreck is sticking out of the water. Like the Monitor, for example. You know, the USS Monitor, actually, I dived on the USS Monitor, but I never got to see it. And you said, wait a minute, I thought you said you dived on it. Yes, I did. I went down and touched the USS Monitor in 212 feet of water off of North Carolina. And there was a visibility, it was real clear down to 10 feet, 15 feet off the bottom. Then it went to 0. There was just a cloud of muck on the bottom. So I followed the chain down to the wreck, touched it. I couldn't even read a gauge, and then went back up. So, you know, and that's the way some of these wrecks can be. But anyway, the Monitor, again, that's a whole other story. But what we have, but what I was getting to here, I had a little slip. What I was getting to is the Monitor, it is off the bottom. And so they were able to go down and actually take big sections of the ship and bring it up and have certain parts of it in a museum in Virginia and preserve it, properly preserve it. But in this case, what we have here with the Hatteras is it's buried, and you have this that's over the wreck. So how do you get to the wreck to bring things up? You've got to remove all that overburden, and that's not something that would be easy or inexpensive to do. And so, yes, it's preserved and it'll stay preserved, and I'm really not sure what the next step from an archaeological standpoint would be at this time. So.
I think we need to wind up.
Oh, okay, okay. We're at the end. Is there any more slides that I have up here, or is that it? Okay, that's the Tom Freeman painting. Next. This was the Houston Chronicle. Next. And you know what I'm really talking about. You know, you have to be into maritime heritage and historical shipwrecks. That's what this whole thing is about. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's something we should all be proud about. And was there one more slide that I wanted you to put up? No, I think there's one more image. I just wanted to show one last image, and then I'll be taking questions. If you can find it. Oh, so this was just a contrast where this is what was done. This is the mapping project that was done, showing the two side wheels and the shaft and the parts of the engine. And then this was a sketch that was done showing the Hatteras going down. And that was
Two
eight-
wheels on each side.
Yeah.
And the shaft.
1863 and 2012. And so that's the contrast. That's the comparison. And hey, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks very much. Okay. And he is still active. He just finished the project that I was talking about for the Clotilda in over in Alabama, Mobile, Alabama, and no, there's nothing that I'm aware of, and that Andy Hall, who was my go-to guy today, is aware of, that is being done with others. It's just out there sitting there. And again, if anybody was inclined to visit a shipwreck like this, and they have a boat and they can go out 20 miles and they want to do it, send me an email or text or talk to me or call me, and I can tell you how to find it. But no, nobody is. I don't know of any plans to further develop this. Yes.
Have you ever talked to Dr. Rick Klein down at ERGB?
Oh, he's down in Brownsville.
Yes.
Is he an archaeologist?
No, he's a
Marine biologist. I may have. Yeah. So.
You guys need to be talking.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, any other?
Jesse, is there more?
Jesse,
Oh,
can
no.
you hear me?
No more. Yeah.
Jesse, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Jack Arian,
Oh. Okay.
retired from BOEM. I might be able to address a couple of these points. One thing that's significant about the Hatteras is it was the first National Register of Historic Places shipwreck listed in the Gulf of Mexico. And that was back in the 70s. So, for the last, 50 years, it was the only one. There are now, I think, 33 shipwrecks listed. Part of that difficulty came in the fact that the Hatteras is on the outer continental shelf. It's not actually in the territorial waters of the United States. So that became an administrative issue with trying to list sites on the National Register or to afford them like historical landmark status, because it's far offshore that it's not part of the territorial waters. So that becomes an issue. BOEM had kind of gotten over that hurdle and has now listed several sites that are on the outer continental shelf, some of them being, dozens of miles offshore. The issue with trying to do anything with the Hatteras, though, it's, as you said, it's in 50 some odd feet of water. The expense of trying to do something like that is enormous, and there's just not the kind of funding that's available anywhere to try and make a recovery of that sort. I know we had been involved with recovering a small portion of a shipwreck in about 4,000 feet of water using remote robotic equipment. And that in itself cost some $3 million. So trying to recover anything, even in 56 feet of water is extremely expensive. So I doubt that it'll ever happen. And then if you recover it, the bigger expense is trying to conserve it. And as I'm sure you know, conserving anything that's been in seawater for that many years is a long chemical process that could run into the millions. So it's really unlikely, I think, that anything will ever actually happen in the future with this site, unfortunately, other than doing what's been done, which is documenting the surface expression of it.
Hey, well, thanks a lot, Jack. Appreciate that update and your insight into this. Christine, you had a question. You know, the Navy, there was a Navy personnel on board. It was a woman. And she, to be honest with you, I don't remember actually even communicating with her. It was somebody just said, oh yeah, we have so-and-so over here who's part of the US Navy, because the Navy wanted to have somebody there, with their eyes watching what we were doing.
You guys would take anything that wasn't nailed down.
And, but she, yeah, but the priest did, he did hold the service, and the person from the Navy was there, and she was there representing the US Navy. And that all, I didn't even know about that until it happened. I didn't know ahead of time that was all going to happen, but it was Jim Delgado did all of that, put all that together.
There was actually a Navy person there. It's a very positive.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Whether the person.
Absolutely. And
they acknowledge.
And these are two seamen who gave their lives for their country, and they were never commemorated. So hey, we can do that, and we're going to commemorate them. They gave their lives. Yeah. So okay. Oh, one more.
What is the relationship?
Yeah. Oh, the Marie Celeste. Have you dived the Marie Celeste? Yeah. I would say they're probably about the same. I would guess. Actually, Marie Celeste may be smaller. That's 210 feet. Yeah, probably the Marie Celeste is a little bit smaller. By the way, Russell, I've dived that Marie Celeste 15 times. At least.
I read your book and mileage.
But again, guys, hey, thanks very much. And was there another question? I'm sorry.
Did you ever know Bartol Arnold?
I met him one time. Yes.
Well, I was with Dick Zingula, and we dove a small paddle wheel in White Bayou off of Bay City.
No kidding.
And I found the piston arm was made out of cypress, and the numbers, but the visibility was 2 inches. And I said, no dive partner, because I don't want them stepping on me. And my son was on shore watching my bubbles. And I'll try to find that video, but it was really
that's
neat.
fascinating.
Mrs. White said,
that's cool.
Don't mess with my fishing in the White Bayou.
That is cool. That is
in
so
Bay
cool.
City. But
Okay.
I have some books, the underwater archaeology.
Oh, he did some amazing things. Yeah.
Then he did the LaSalle.
I went to one of his.
Florida.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't there, but my grandson was.
Okay. No, I've got photos of the LaSalle. That's another fascinating shipwreck. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We appreciate it. I've got a couple of quick things to say while Martin gets the contest ready. So Dennis, you want to say anything about the Philippines trip?
Yeah, we've got 12 people, we can do 16.
We got 12 now with actually cash money and everything. Wow. So that's 3/4 of the boat. And that means our second discount kicked in. And so we'll get an even bigger discount if we fill it up. And it's going to the Philippines. It's it's a really nice deal. It's like 2 weeks almost. It's on a liveaboard and the land as well. We can give you the details if it's quite a
It'll run plus or minus 5,000.
Yeah.
It's 9 days on the Atlantis Azores, which is a premium boat, 16 people max, and then 5 days at the resort Atlantis at
Dumaguete. Yeah, those spaces are at risk though, so we're not holding them. That's why people have to pay cash up front, because the club has to pay cash up front for it. It's not refundable. So anyway,
Just as long as it's paid by the way.
yeah, maybe so. So with just one other thing before we go on, I totally forgot about this, but Betsy's up in Colorado, but she wanted me to say that she'll be opening the video contest for viewing and judging pretty soon. So I don't think she got a lot. I don't know how many she got. Wasn't, you know, an outpour. I think she got one of the new category. It's already passed. It was like the end of the month.
I ran out of time.
Next chance will be next spring. Okay, so why don't we yeah, let's cover here. Perfect. That is pretty done. Good to do. That's all, folks. Dinner. Dinner, yeah. Sorry. Oh, yeah. That's right. I have no idea what's in this bag.
Okay, so you're leaving Wednesday, is that what you said?
Next week.
Oh, next week.
Yeah. I just use my case.
Don't worry about it. Just email me or something.
Okay, so they got their closets. So first started. Oh.
Tell us what it is.
Well, it was spare air tank there. Dinner will be real nickel at hot tapatio.
I think that's where we're going to be. So Richard.